been in the Queen's Arms now for 15 years. We came here as a tenant at will and went on to sign a full lease after a year. We came into this premises because my husband desperately needed to move his employment, and he wanted a pub. When I first met him, he said he was going to have a pub one day, and we eventually said we'd get a pub together, and I was looking forward to it. He was mad for it, and we were excited. We got the option of having a pub in Bakewell, where we'd lived for the last 20 years. It was exciting, it was everything we wanted to do. We soon built up a good local crowd that patronised us. Gary was passionate about keeping the beer in a correct state. I said if I was a barrel, I'd be looked after better than I am his wife. He was very, very passionate about the pub industry. We worked very, very, very hard. I held down a job as a clerk to Building Society for a number of months while we came in here. I would come in from work and do the night shift as he'd done the day shift, but we didn't care. We loved it. We wanted to do it. We were passionate about it. And we have been ever since, really. We've loved what we've done, and we feel proud of ourselves that we've achieved what we have. And I think we've done really, really well for the brewery. I think they can't complain about us as tenants, how we've built up this business on their behalf, because we are only a wet-led pub. We became a tenant at will, which basically means we are responsible for the interior of the pub, but not the fabric of the pub. And it's really a test of whether you are going to get on in the business or whether you dislike the business. Oh yes, lots of them. We had a full structural engineers report done on areas of the pub that were of great concern. Essentially some walls that had got very badly stone erosion and bulges, lots of woodworm throughout the building that we highlighted on the report, and we presented to Marston's why we were a tenant at will. They did a schedule of dilapidation themselves and an agreement to repair certain items in the pub, but there was no mention of the wall, which we'd highlighted as being a problem. Yes, we presented them with our report, which was a very detailed structural report, and has sentences in it saying that we should not be responsible for an inherent problem, which was obviously the case. It was an inherent problem.
Right.
And they hoped that the evidence that they'd presented would be useful to us in the event that the brewery decided at a later date that it was our responsibility. They had a schedule of repairs done that they were prepared to do on the building, and there was no mention of the wall or the woodworm problem, which we'd highlighted in a full structural engineers report and presented to them. And our solicitors also asked them to send a side letter regarding our liability to the said walls. They said they wouldn't do that because it wasn't their policy to do so. They did do the woodworm treatment, which was the lesser of the two evils for them.
Right.
But we had to, we were forced into signing a lease eventually. had a visit from our BDM at the time.
Business Development Manager?
Yes, that's correct.
Right.
And he brought along an accountant from Marston's, and we discussed our concerns of the wall and that we didn't want to sign the lease. And his response to that was, you signed the lease or we board it up to let. The agreement on entering the premises, because it had been empty for maybe 5 to 6 months prior to us coming into the building,
right.
And it had been very much vandalised. Marston's came along and slapped a few tins of paint about,
right.
Tarted it up a bit, minimal work was carried out, and the agreement was that we would refurb the whole of the pub. There was nothing in here, right down to a light bulb. We then entered into that agreement and said, as a tenant at will, we will come into the property, we will spend money, carpets upstairs and downstairs, curtains, curtain tracks, light fittings, all the fitted furniture, tables, chairs, fridge freezers, audio system, surveillance system, everything that you need to run a pub. That was the case that we would have been out on our ear. They were going to board it up. They were very forceful about this, and our solicitor at the time has got, and I've got possession of them, letters saying that they were under considerable pressure from the brewery for us to sign the lease agreement.
Right.
And then they sent the heavies around, which was this gentleman, the accountant from Marston's, who said the facts that you have got to sign this lease or you're out. We hadn't got a home to go to. We'd let our property out. So we were homeless if we left the building, and £50,000 in debt. We've built up a very good business for Marston's. It's a wet-led pub.
Right.
We have a very good turnover of local customers, lots of visitors into the town. We've constantly spent money on the building in the 15 years we've been here. We've refurbed the whole of the fitted seating on 3 occasions in the last 15 years. New carpets, changing things constantly. We've developed 2 B&B letting rooms with ensuite bathrooms that weren't there before we came in. We funded that ourselves. The toilets were in a very, very bad state of repair when we came in here. Old Victorian urinals that were very, very nasty. We took all of those out. We took the concrete up, we relaid the drains, and we put all new sanitary ware in there. The backyard was in very poor state of repair, years of rolling barrels over it. We completely relayed concrete in the backyard. We did this, all of us, ourselves. We didn't employ people because we couldn't afford to employ people. We had friends and people that were locals helped us to do that, wheelbarrowing concrete around and things like that. We've constantly spent money, I think probably in excess of 120,000 on top of the 50 that we'd already spent to come in here. Marston's has spent absolutely nothing on this pub.
Nothing.
Absolutely nothing. They haven't visited me in 15 years.
To do an inspection?
To do an inspection.
Right.
They haven't done a dilapidation report in 15 years, even though I've had rent reviews every 5 years.
Okay.
And this time of a rent review in May, all of a sudden I have a rent review which is in May, and it's going to be a full dilapidation report presented to us, saying that all these things that we highlighted 15 years ago are now urgently needed to be repaired. They have sent out a surveyor to do a full dilapidation on the building, which we've never had before, and took us very much by surprise because we're not leaving the building, we're under a rent review. And I never had one before when I've had a rent review. We're asking to go free of tie from the brewery so we can buy our beer at a vastly reduced price to what the brewery charges, and that's up in May for review. And I think solely the reason they've slapped this dilapidation on me is because we've asked to go free of tie from them. The wall on Bridge Street, which has got stone erosion and a bulge in it, which has always been there, and it has been identified by Peak Park Planning, who take photographic evidence around the town on listed buildings, which we are, every 5 years, and they've never drawn our attention to the wall being of concern to them. We had our own structural survey done, as I've said before, when we came in here in 2005, to cover our backs, really, in the event that somebody would bring it up at a later date, and they have. And I think this is purely another way of the brewery bullying us regarding us going free of tie, seeing as they've never ever done a dilapidation on us before. They've said to rebuild the whole elevation, taking the wall down from the roof down to the pavement, is £78,000. Oh, I feel incredibly let down. We've worked so hard. We've been passionate about this job, and I feel bullied, very bullied by their behaviour regarding the dilapidations. It's a big blow to us and something that we didn't expect. Well, we wanted to be free of tie from them because the prices they charge to us are enormous, and we can get our beer a lot cheaper elsewhere, which will raise our profit margins. And also, in the area we are, we've got Chatsworth on one side of us, Haddon Hall on the other. We are well visited in this town, and lots of people would like a local brewery, and we're not allowed to have a local brewery. There's a few in the town that have got situations where they can have local beers, and people will walk out because we haven't got local beers.
Right.
So we would like to be able to offer a local beer to the customers that come in, that are visiting the town, and also a lot of our locals have got a passion for local beers. We've got Thornbridge in the town. It's only up the road. The brewery is only up the road, but we're not allowed to have it. Well, we've got lots of options when it comes to other breweries in the area. There's lots of microbreweries that we could support, put into the industry again in this area, rather than supporting massive big companies who charge massive amounts of money for their beer. We could desperately need or want to support local business in this area, rather than Marston's, who are a massive company and charge massive money for their barrels. Well, from day one really we were very short of BDMs. They'd come and go. leave, oh, they'd be here to stay. No. Next week they were gone again. We went months and months and months without seeing people. No support, no nothing from the brewery regarding BDMs. We'd ask about them, they'd say, oh well. I even nicknamed one the Scarlet Pimpernel because he never ever visited. I don't know where he was, but he definitely didn't visit our pub. We have had Helen Davis for the last 5 years. We see her occasionally. Since this has all been going on, I had a meeting with her early December. I haven't had any contact with her since then. She has kept a very low profile. Why this problem of ours has been going on, which I feel again let down, because at the point where you feel you might need support, she's definitely not there. And again, let down once more by the brewery. In the time we've had BDMs visiting us, I feel we haven't had any support from them in any big way. We have to plead with them when we've been having an event that we think that they should support, we've done on numerous occasions to try and bring business in. I've celebrated 60th birthdays, knowing that it'd make us busy, and they don't offer absolutely nothing to you. They just want to take the reward, and they don't want to put anything back into it. They do the minimal amount to support us.